All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read-alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Teacher Lady Show. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Teacher Lady Speaks. I'm Miss Erica, the Teacher Lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. Now, every single week on the Teacher Lady Show, we have a different topic. And this week's topic is all about homelessness. We want children to understand that homelessness is not a personal failure, but a social issue, and compassion is the first step towards change, okay? Now, this Teacher Lady Speaks episode is going to come from two perspectives. I want to help parents who are currently experiencing homelessness with their children, as well as help parents help their child understand homelessness, okay? And of course, we're using picture books to be able to do so. Now, rewinding back to Monday on the Teacher Lady Reads playlist, we featured two read-alouds. We had Children of the World, Poverty and Hunger, as well as A Shelter in Our Car. So those books are up for the interactive read aloud. And then on Wednesday, we had two behind the book reviews where I let you know how can you use these books as resource to discuss homelessness with your children. And now today, we are wrapping it all up with this episode of the Teacher Lady Speaks, a crash course in how to teach children that homelessness, again, is not a personal failure, but a social issue, and compassion is the first step towards change. It is not a personal failure. So often we look at people who are unhoused and we say, you should have did this and you should have did that. And if you stop using drugs, there is so much blame without recognizing that it really is a social issue. Okay. So in this episode, we will be covering resources. We'll be covering curriculum in terms of what school teaches. We will be covering other insights and just best practices to help you to be able to help your child. You ready? Let's grow. Defining homelessness for a young child. I would tell them straight out that homelessness is when a person does not have a consistent, stable place to live. Okay. So there are tons of different types of homelessness. There is homelessness where people are sleeping on the street. There's homelessness where people sleep in shelters, which is when you get to go to a place sometimes for a few days. Sometimes there's a curfew. You're usually in a shared space with like bunk beds, but living in shelters is a type of homelessness. There's homelessness with people living in their cars and so on and so forth. And so what homelessness means is that you don't have a consistent place to live. And when I explain that, I would also explain that this is not a result of laziness. This is not a result of just blanket, poor decision making, or you need to work hard, but literally we live in a society that is very expensive. We live in a society that has extreme rich, which means we have to have extreme poor because that's just how the economy works. And for some people, they cannot afford right now to be inside. And having that real and uncomfortable conversation will help your child to stop blaming the people that they're seeing and to start looking at the bigger picture in terms of social and societal issues that brought these people here in the first place. Now, every single week on the Teacher Lady Show, we look at state curriculum. We want to understand what is it that schools are teaching so that you have that information as parents. So we compare the state of California to the state of Texas, and we do a little bit of a dive into their curriculum to see what's going on with that topic. So in the state of California, California addresses homelessness and poverty through history, social science, health education, and transformative social and emotional learning frameworks. So in history, social science standards for grades 2, HSS 2.4, students learn about community needs and how people work together to meet basic necessities. In grades 3, HSS 3.4, students study how communities respond to challenges and provide support. And then in grade 5, HSS 5.4 and 5.11, students examine inequality, civic responsibility, and social change. Now, under the health education standards, mental, emotional, and social health, there is an emphasis on empathy, respect, and understanding how social factors impact well-being. Now, under the transformative social emotional learning competencies, social awareness, understanding the perspective of others, including those who face hardship, as well as responsible decision making and recognizing unfair systems and exploring ways to help. Now, one thing that I do think is really special about California is California enforces something called McKinney-Vento, which is a Homelessness Assistance Act, requiring schools to identify and support students experiencing homelessness, making this both academic but also real world relevant. And so what McKinney-Vento is when your child enrolls in public school in California, if they are identified as being unhoused, or if you are identified as being unhoused, there are extra services and supports that your family will receive to make sure that that child is getting what they need, both academically but also socially. Okay. Their mental health services. There are sometimes food supports after or before school programs, and just additional things to try to help your family. So one of the things is that if you are currently experiencing homelessness, make sure that that school is aware of your situation. Don't let shame or embarrassment, kind of deter you from getting the support you need. Because if they understand that, there might be things that they can do to help you through your transition process. Moving on to the state of Texas. So Texas, they have some things on homelessness underneath their social studies, health education, and character education standards. Now, under social studies, Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, in grade 113.12, they have understanding needs versus wants and how communities can help. In grade 2, there's identifying how individuals and groups contribute to the common good. In grade 3, there is exploring how communities respond to challenges. And in grade 5, examining civic responsibility and social issues. Now, under health education, there is an emphasis on empathy, emotional health, and respect for others' experiences. And then underneath the Texas Administration Code, Title 19, Chapter 120, it requires instruction in compassion, responsibility, and service, values essential to understanding homelessness. Texas schools are expected to help students understand that community and well-being and caring for those without stable housing is considered an act of compassion and empathy, but it's not specific to homelessness. So Texas curriculum has very general, like we need to respect our neighbors and just very general things. There is not a lot specifically for people who are unhoused at this moment. And there also, I couldn't find anything comparable to, McKinney-Vento in terms of having something that is embedded and mandatory to support families that are going through and experiencing homelessness. So overall, I would say that, again, both states come up short, but California definitely has the win this week in terms of making sure that there is something embedded in the curriculum and just overall support. But you should talk to your child about poverty. You should talk to your child about people who are in transition periods, about kindness and empathy. And if you are a parent who is currently experiencing homelessness, you should also explain to your child that transitions happen and that you love them and that you all will be okay. All right. Resources. The first resource is PBS Learning Media. They have a poverty and homelessness section of their website. This is going to offer short videos and discussion guides that help children understand homelessness through stories, not statistics. Content focuses on empathy, fairness, and community solutions. The second website is the National Coalition for the Homeless. This is going to be youth education resources, and it offers child-appropriate explanations of homelessness, including what families can do to help without censoring guilt or fear. The third resource is going to be UNICEF Kid Power, Hunger and Poverty Learning Hub. This is going to have interactive activities that teach children about global hunger and poverty while empowering them to take age-appropriate action. The fourth resource is Scholastic, and they have a teaching about homelessness section of their website, which provides articles, read-alouds, extensions, and classroom-safe discussion prompts designed specifically for elementary learners. The fifth resource is going to be Sesame Workshop, Housing and Family Transitions. Sesame Street resources support young children in understanding big changes like housing instability, using familiar characters and reassuring language. The next resource is Save the Children, Poverty and Child Well-Being. Save the Children provides family-friendly explanations of poverty and hunger, both in the U.S. and globally. The thing that I do like about this website, as well as Feeding America, which is the next one that is featured, is both of them have articles that will help you explain what is happening to your child if you're currently experiencing homelessness. And it will also help your child who might not understand why somebody else is experiencing homelessness. That was the point of me sharing those last two resources. Now, in terms of resources to help you if you are homeless, if you are going through homelessness, one resource I want to share is your local churches. Churches are nonprofits that do not pay taxes, okay, in order to support community. And so if you and your family right now are going through a transition period, making sure that you get involved in local churches, even if you don't want to attend like church service, asking about things like food pantry or family days, maybe fun days for your children, and just ways to make sure that they are okay during this transitional process is going to be crucial. Along those same lines, I would always tell you to check out your local library to see what they have available. What is it that they can help with? What resources do they know of? And that's the same thing for even community centers, like Googling local community centers in whatever your city is, Cincinnati, and then going to those community centers and explaining that you and your family are in a transitional period. These are some of the things that you're looking for or needing, or is there anything that they can help with? A large part of surviving homelessness is not doing it so quietly, and not in this way that you speak as if you're a victim, but that you're a human being and you're going through some things right now. And I did not do that. When my family was experiencing our transitional period, we just dealt with it. Like it was just me, my husband, the baby, kind of going on another adventure until we could afford housing in the Bay Area and until we could find housing, because it wasn't just all financial. Now these processes require so much paperwork and background that even if you do have a job, you could still end up going through a transitional period. And we did not tell people. We got up early. We hit the gym in order to, shower. We got dressed. We took the baby to school like she wasn't involved in any, programs or anything like that. And overall, we probably could have had a smoother experience had we actually asked for help. So as you're going through your transitional period, making sure to tap in with local community resources, churches, other nonprofits, anything that might be available will really help you, because also your mental health right now is taking a hit and we need to make sure that you're okay first. Now let's talk about some best practices. And again, I'm going to go with best practices for both the perspective of being homeless as well as getting your child to understand that homelessness is a social and societal problem. Okay. So the first best practice is We need to stop recording people. This idea of helping and of poverty entertainment is sickening to me. The idea that you can go up to somebody and be recording them before you give them this beautiful gift or this great gift is very sad. And I understand that in some ways that is how people make money to keep giving. But I believe that if you want to record somebody before the big surprise, you actually need to tell them, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I want to record you. People who are impoverished, people who are experiencing transition, they deserve privacy. They deserve a level of anonymity that we do not provide as a society anymore. I work in the Tenderloin, and the Tenderloin is the most impoverished area of San Francisco. We have fentanyl addiction issues, feces issues, violent issues. We have so many problems in that area, but those are human beings. And so when I see people's footage of faces that I'm familiar with because I work in the area, and then a voiceover of you running your mouth about it, is disgusting to me, because they deserved to not be on your screen. They deserved to be going through whatever it is they're going through without it being broadcasted to the entire world. So the first best practice is to teach your child and teach yourself that we should not be using people who are going through transition as entertainment. That's wrong. Again, if you want to record, it's actually one of the things I struggle with because it bothers me so much. Like, I run an entire program for women and children, and I honestly hate recording because I understand that, like, that's how I raise money and that's how I get donors involved. And at the same token, living in this world of exploitation while people are going through some of their hardest periods is difficult. So the only way to go about it is to ask permission. That is my first best practice, and I will always stand on that. The next best practice is for you to correct your child language. Some children are very out of touch when it comes to people who are experiencing homelessness, and some of the word choices that they use are not it. And so you want to correct that. When children say things, well, why are they sleeping outside, or why are they sleeping in a tent, and they're just curious, you can answer, because right now that's where they live. Possibly they cannot afford a home. Possibly they're having mental health issues. Well, what about their family? Well, not everybody has family like you have family. And I think being very honest with your child about the differences that people experience is important. Like, I know for me, I would have said, I grew up in poverty, and I did on some level. But then I went to Nicaragua, and I went to Managua, and I went to Matagalpa, and I built schools there. And my experience being there and looking at the houses that were handmade and the stray dogs and some of the addiction around sniffing paint and things like that gave me a different perspective of what even being impoverished could look like, right? I feel like so much of learning is experiencing through travel, through doing, through seeing, through asking questions. And so, sure, things can always be worse, but more than worse or better, it's different. Because one of the things that I really appreciated about Nicaragua was the creativity. So what I would see is dirt you're now taking to make some sort of clay and then somehow making a cup, right? Or what I would consider scraps, you've now made this beautiful sculpture, almost like this paper machete figure thing. And so that creativity and that community where one person would have one thing, one person would have another, and then boom, y'all have a dinner. I love that. So where there were some areas where I was like, dang, this is hard to experience just visiting here, there were other areas where I was like, dang, They may have less in terms of financial, but that community, they solid. Like they have each other. They have each other's families. They help raise each other's children. Like that was really beautiful. So experiences are really going to help your child to start to empathize, stop being so judgmental, and you answering their question actually assist them in not just drawing conclusions that people who do this are bad, people who dig through the trash can are bad, people who even do drugs are bad. A lot of people do drugs because their life was such a challenge that they felt like they needed to escape it. Some people get addicted to drugs by way of doctors, medical doctors. They had an accident, they were given a strong medication, and that pain is consistent, but those prescriptions stopped, and now they're taking street pharmaceuticals, right? Some people didn't even know that they were using the drug that they thought that they were buying. Stuff is laced now. So there's multiple reasons why people become addicted to drugs. It is not just a simple, oh, they're a bad person, so they do drugs. And I think correcting a lot of this is important. I have a child who is very privileged in a lot of ways. All of her needs are pretty much taken care of. And I took her back to my childhood neighborhoods because I wanted her to see that people live differently from you. They experience life different from you. And you're not good because your parents have, and they're not bad because their parents don't. Like, it does not work that way. And I've had her volunteer in areas. And at first she was uncomfortable. Like, when you take your baby back to sale projects, they will feel a little antsy if that is not their current experience. But so what? Because as much as people take pictures at a Tenderloin and, use it as this way to get attention, and again, like, poverty, exploitation in so many ways, there's also families there. There are people who live here, and this is their home. And so just being mindful with all of that, and those conversations are going to be super important. Now, I also want to talk about what to do if you are currently homeless with a child or with children. Like, what do those processes look like? And the first thing is, I want to encourage you to have a routine. Like, how are you getting those babies clean in the morning? How are you getting yourself clean? How are you getting them to school and then going to go find work for yourself, or going to work if you have a job? Like, what is your daily routine? Because you just sitting and thinking about your current situation is going to make everything harder. Now, if you are homeless right now, you want to find a gym that has showers. That, for me, every single time I have been homeless, I've been homeless multiple times, okay? Every single time the gym, whether it's a YMCA, a Planet Fitness, 24-hour fitness has a gym with a shower, you need to find a place with a shower, because that shower is going to help you to have a consistent routine that helps you keep up your self-care in the midst of experiencing this. And it would also be helpful if you could find a place that has 24/7 access, because then if you need to go in earlier to get everybody to school on time, or whatever it is you need to do, is helpful. Now, as you go into the gym with your bags, that is none of their business. You have paid your gym membership, okay? And when you also are dealing with gyms and you're trying to find a place for you and your child to keep, yourselves clean, you want to look for gyms that have programs for both children as well as adults, because some gyms do not allow children at all. So even you bringing your child into shower is going to be a problem. So I know for us, when we were going through this process, it was the YMCA. The YMCA had showers. The YMCA had after school programs for kids. They had a little child care part. So when my husband and I would work out, Addie could go play with kids. Like, we did homelessness so well, that baby didn't really know she was homeless for real. Like, we were very creative. And that's one of them, having a routine. Making sure in the daytime y'all are busy. They need to be doing something. If it's summertime, Find a summertime program. Let them know you can't afford to pay for it and see what scholarships are available. If it's school time, they have to get to school. Which brings me to my next best practice. If you are staying in your car, parking that car somewhere that has good lighting, somewhere that is going to have consistent security is going to be helpful. You can put up a privacy shield on the front of your window, and you can even get some for the sides of your window so that people cannot see in as you're sleeping or as your children are sleeping. But making sure to have that is going to be extremely important. Okay. Staying in a lit area, staying somewhere that has security. I know for us, it was the Embassy Suites. I'm just telling y'all all my business. It was the Embassy Suites in it's either South San Francisco or Daly City. And, it was a hotel parking lot. It was lit, and there was security constantly walking around. And that's just what we did. And then the next thing that you're going to try to do is to get a storage unit. Okay. And I know you're like, dang, Erica, this money is adding up. But when I tell you the things that you want to invest in most as your family transitions is a storage unit. And when you do your storage unit, I'm going to show a picture of mine. You want to get clothes racks and you want to organize everybody's stuff. Okay. Because what's going to happen is you're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to hit the storage, you're going to get everybody's clothes for that day. Everything that everybody needs to go take their showers. You're going to take the showers. You're going to, get everybody changed. And then you're going to take that stuff back to the storage unit. This way you don't have to keep everything in your car, especially in the Bay Area. They're busting out windows like crazy, and safety is going to be essential. So get yourself a storage unit. It does not need to be a big one, but it does need to be one that can house all y'all stuff, you and your children, in a way that is organized. All of these things help. I'm telling you, because I've been there. Get yourself a storage unit, get yourself a routine, get yourself a gym membership, lock into your local churches. Okay. Make sure if you're in California that you are on the McKinney-Vento list, so that anything extra during Christmas time, Thanksgiving, whatever it is, you will be contacted. You need a phone. You need a working phone. For about $45 a month, you can have unlimited. Okay, that is another thing that you need, because you need to be able to receive calls if a job is coming in. You need to be able to research the internet, apply for stuff, contact your children, communicate with your children, which brings me to my next best practice. If your child is in school and they have an after school program, I don't care what time that after school program ends. While you are going through a transition process, they need to be there as early as they can and leave as late as they can. That day should be filled with activity for your child. Then when they leave out, you can have them go take a shower, or if it's too much, you could just stay with the showers in the morning. Y'all can rest in a safe place and then get up the next day and do it again. Even on the weekends, you got to find a program. You got to find somewhere to go. Maybe there's a local aunt or a cousin or somebody they can go to. But what you do not want, you want to think of that car like just sleep, and then everything else is active. Okay, so you want to set up your routine. What mine's looked like was, again, getting up, getting to the storage, taking a shower, getting that baby to school, we going to work. That's what it looked like over here. And you want to have something, because that will help you. It will help you recognize that your car is just shelter, but your babies are okay. We're not going to feel guilty for them being at school from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. because right now you're doing the best you can, which is my next best practice. You continue to tell yourself, hey, I'm doing a good job. You continue to brush your hair, brush your teeth. It is going to be hard, but you fight off any thoughts of depression and you recognize that this is temporary. This is temporary. Okay. I can tell you, as a person who has a big house right now, and I love my house, and it's very safe and it's very cozy and it's beautifully decorated, that I was once where you are. Transitions are that. They're just transitions. And if you can set up your days for success by having routines, by having plans for things that you want to do, by staying organized in that storage unit, by keeping your body together, you will feel so much better. You will be able to think clear enough to figure out a place for you and your babies. Okay. And make sure that you understand in your state these safety parameters around being homeless with a child. Like in California, you can be homeless with a child. That's not considered, you wouldn't get your children removed for it just being homeless. But whatever your state is, you want to understand, because if there is a situation, which I don't know, a certain state where you cannot be sleeping in the car, what have you, you want to make sure that you and your children are protected. Personally, I don't care for shelters. I've stayed in them as well. They're not my preference. My preference, if I was experiencing homelessness, would definitely be my vehicle. So those are some things just off the top of my head that I am thinking of. Please stay in as high spirits as possible. And I know I probably shouldn't say it on a channel that is, open for everybody, but I am definitely praying for you and your family, because it is hard. Being homeless is hard. Not knowing where you're going to go is hard. It's an emotional process, and it is not a direct failure to you. I hope that you use it as motivation to push yourself into your goals. Go enroll in community college. You do hair anyway. Go get a cosmetology license. Figure out, what am I going to do to get out of this situation, and recognize that it is temporary. And if you got kids that are privileged, that are judging those who live differently than what it is that, they're living, you correct that behavior. You have them volunteer at soup kitchens. You have them talk to people. You teach them about why people might be sleeping outside. You teach them about mental health, and you raise a child that is compassionate to other people's experiences, because God knows that those tables could turn oh so quickly. And a lot of people's wealth is not even a result of their own hard work, but other people's labor. So there is a lot of education that needs to go into making sure that your child holds space and compassion towards action and helping, versus let me laugh or make fun of or put down somebody who is different from who I am. When to seek support. If you are homeless, you should be seeking support. You should be seeking help. You should be calling around and asking around. You should be putting together a plan. I'm one of those people, like, you can get on a list, but we're not waiting for that list to call us. I genuinely believe that we are so much more powerful than we understand. And you going to that library in the daytime and putting together your brand kit to do nails and getting creative in that is going to be so very important. So if you are homeless, the time to seek help is now. If your child is having attitudes and nasty attitudes towards people who are unhoused, I've went through best practices in order to correct that, but they need to start to understand what that experience is. And I would definitely make sure that you get them involved in some volunteer opportunities and some give back opportunities, and not in a way of looking down at those, people like they're beneath them or anything like that. You really want to watch words. Like, I don't even like saying people are poor, because our society is poor, has a poor mindset. It's just their experiences. And so having your child show up for other people, get out of their own mind and recognize their own privilege is definitely going to help. And if you are experiencing a transitional period with your family, making sure that you are signed up on lists and giveaways and things like that, while also, doing what you need to do to get out of your situation. Common questions. Oftentimes, children might ask things like, why don't people who are homeless just get a house? I've answered this, but I would definitely address it from the sense that we all have different experiences, and there are multiple reasons why people are in that situation. And very few people just choose to kind of live outside. Very few people choose to not have anywhere to go. And so it's not as simple as them just picking a home and getting it. The next common question is it safe to be homeless with a child? Yes, it is safe to be homeless with a child. I believe that children should be with their parents as much as possible. And I believe that transition periods happen. There are periods to where you are, going from one state to another or one situation to another. Sometimes there are people who are leaving domestic violence relationships. And so for that time being, they don't have a stable home, or they're couch surfing or whatever the case may be in order to survive that period. Then that in no way, stops them from being an adequate parent. And we have this obsession in this country with taking kids that don't belong to us. And so, yeah, absolutely, it is safe to be homeless with your child. You're going to take precaution like you would for anything else. If you're sleeping in your car, you're going to sleep in a lit area that has security around. If your house hopping or couch surfing, you're going to make sure to stay near your children, as you sleep through the night, and make sure that you're in a safe house. And if you're in a shelter, same thing. Proximity to your child is going to be, or your children is going to be important. And also, if you are living in a shelter and you do not feel safe, you let your baby sleep and you stay awake. And then once you get them off to school, you can go take a nap somewhere, okay? But if you do not feel comfortable with your arrangement, stay awake, stay on alert, keep you a pepper spray. You're going to be okay, all right? Ooh, we had another hard, touchy subject. I just want to remind you that if you are currently experiencing homelessness, it is a transitional period. You are still a great parent. That does not mean that you're bad in any way. You are learning. You are growing. Don't let the society make you feel like you don't deserve to be a parent, because it's hard right now. You do the things that I say in this episode and understand that it is temporary. If you have a child who has a nasty attitude towards people who are homeless, we're going to correct those things. We're going to let them know that this is a societal failure, not a personal failure. We're going to make sure that we're combating any negative language towards people who are unhoused. And if you are a social media influencer or a social media person, we're going to stop walking around with our phones and sticking them in people's faces and recording them with, a plate of food and recording their responses. We're going to stop all of that and recognize that they deserve to have space. Okay. If they have not consented beforehand. I do not like the idea of you recording first and asking for permission later. You've already took that footage of that person and put it on your phone. So if they have not consented beforehand, we're not going to do it. And so thank you for learning with me, for growing with me, for being part of this book loving community. If you did not know, I am also an author and an illustrator. Please check out my books as well as the Empathy Library. Now, the Empathy Library is a pay-it-forward program where we get books to children in need on purpose. And so they're intentional libraries. Those books are going to reflect that child's identity. So go to the website, check out the Empathy Library, check out my personal books. And until next time, remember to enjoy the moment or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.